Blog Talk Radio.
Your experience begin right now. From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride as we are live on Spaced Out Radio.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Spaced Out Radio Network at spacedoutradio.com as we come in from the frozen Canadian tundra, battle our way past the wild animals, sidestep Bigfoot, and enter Uncle Jimbo's cabin, stoke the fire, heat this place up, and broadcast you live on this Friday night, early Saturday morning if you're on the East Coast. Here at SOR, we do this thing 7 days a week. We are your official one-stop shop when it comes to the supernatural, paranormal, ufological, spiritual, extraterrestrial, and so much more. We'd like to thank guitar god Ron Bumblefoot Thal for the amazing theme song we have running for you on a nightly basis. You can find his new album, Little Brother Is Watching, by going to spacedoutradio.com. Hey, if you're a social media junkie like I am, you can follow us on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. You can give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. And you can ask to join our private Spaced Out Radio group as well as Podcast Central. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. And, of course, our website is a new look, spacedoutradio.com. At this time, we want to send a shout-out to our fans in the Spaced Out Radio chat room, along with Paranormal Into the Night and Paranormal Forum. In Paranormal Into the Night, we have a very special birthday. Bill Caldwell, it's your birthday. Happy birthday, my friend. Your birthday streak is shorter than the Toronto Maple Leafs Stanley Cup drought. I had to get that in there. Tonight's show is brought to you by Riverwest Reiki and Readings. They provide healings in person or at a distance. Spaced Out Radio listeners receive a 10% discount on pricing. PurplePlates.com. Help heal your body, mind, and soul. Drop into their site and heal yourself today. 80,000 people a month read the new Agora newspaper, find out what's happening around the world regarding politics, health, supernatural, paranormal, and so much more. And if you have an iPhone and if you have $1, you can download the Spirit Storybox. Spirit Storybox, the official ghost hunting app of Spaced Out Radio. We often think of superheroes as men and women who are dressed in a tight outfit with a face mask to hide their identity and a cape flapping in the wind. Yes, that way, and that may be the way Marvel or DC's version of a super character is, but today people marvel at movie stars, athletes, military veterans as heroes as well. But People often forget about the everyday people who are silently doing their superhero job without love, fanfare, autographs, or even superpowers. The only kryptonite that they have is their personal time, energy, and maybe what's left in their bank account. Author T. Krulos wrote a book on real-life superheroes. He's here tonight to share some of the stories from his book, Heroes in the Night, Inside the Real-Life Superhero Movement, as he discusses the people who are making a difference out there. But this is a two-part show. T is also a paranormal addict. During the writing of his book, Monster Hunters, T got to experience paranormal investigations, Bigfoot investigations, and UFO mysteries. He loved it so much, he started a paranormal walk around Milwaukee, Wisconsin, dedicated to these topics. So we're going to have a little bit of a double show here tonight. We welcome in T. Krulos into Space Out Radio tonight. T, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me here.
It's an absolute pleasure to get to have you here as well. And I always love talking to journalists on the air because as someone who spent 10 years in journalism on the radio in Vancouver, it's about telling a story. And in the end, when you can tell a great story, doesn't that make it worth it?
Oh, absolutely. That's the best part of the job, for sure.
When you started writing and getting into journalism, did you have the title of author on your mind, or was that something that just seemed to come naturally?
You know, it's something that I thought about a lot, and I had a couple ideas, but nothing was really grabbing me. It's like, you know, this is great. This is something that I feel passionate about. And so the idea that I wanted to write a book was there, but I just wasn't finding the right topic until I discovered real-life superheroes, and that immediately grabbed my attention.
What was it about the subject that really intrigued you? Because, as I said in the intro, when most people think superheroes, we're thinking Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, Captain America, the Incredible Hulk, Thor. We're not thinking about what everyday people are doing.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, to start, I've always been a fan of superhero comics. It's probably one of the first things I ever read when I was young. And, you know, I read a lot of comic books when I was younger, and I've always been interested. You know, I always go and see the superhero movies and stuff like that. And then a separate factor is that I live in a neighborhood here in Milwaukee that I really enjoy. However, there are crime problems in this neighborhood. You know, I've had friends who have been mugged, car break-ins, you know. So there is crime in my neighborhood, which is distressing to me. So, you know, I just read this short news blurb one day, and it just briefly mentioned that there was this unusual subculture of people that were actually adopting their own superhero personas and going out and patrolling and looking for crime that they could stop. And, you know, I thought about that news item a lot throughout the day when I read it, and the curiosity just got the better of me, and I wanted to look into it more.
Mm-hmm. Were you surprised at what the results were that you found?
Yeah, I found this somewhat secretive group of people that's it's hard to get an exact estimate, but there's as many as a few hundred people around the world who are involved with this. And it's not an organization. It's just kind of a loose network of mysterious people. So, you know, but before I thought book, I freelanced for some magazines here in Milwaukee. So my first instinct was this would be a great magazine piece if I can find a local guy here in Milwaukee. So I got into Google and Googled Milwaukee and real-life superhero, and I found someone. He's a guy who calls himself the Watchman, and he wears a red cowl and red gloves and has a trench coat and a symbol on his shirt. And of all things, I found at the time he had a MySpace page. So I contacted him through MySpace and said, "Hey, I'm genuinely interested in this. I want to hear what you do and what this is all about. Can we set up a meeting?" And he said, "Sure." And we set up a meeting in a city park near my house one night. And I was just kind of walking around this park at nighttime, and there he was in his costume and everything, and it was very surreal, you know. It's hard to describe seeing someone like that in person. You know, and I didn't know. I was like, maybe this guy is crazy. I don't know. But we walked around this park and had a long discussion, and a lot of things he was saying, I understood where he was coming from. About, you know, he felt like he was sick of sitting on the couch, seeing the evening news and seeing all the terrible things and feeling helpless. And so he is a comic book fan and felt inspired to try to get out there and help people out.
Now, when we mention how they help people out, we're talking real people here who are looking to help others out in dire situations. We're not talking people here who have superpowers of their own that, you know, where we hear stories of like a 13-year-old kid who can lift a 2,000-pound car type of thing.
No, these are the most average, everyday people you can think of, people that might be sitting next to you on the bus or in line in front of you at the grocery store. They're just regular people.
We are talking with T. Krulos tonight on Spaced Out Radio. His website, tkrulos.com. His two books that we're talking about tonight, Heroes in the Night and Monster Hunter. When you started talking to many of these people for Heroes in the Night, was there any sort of pattern that you noticed in between all of these men and women?
Well, I mean, I guess I thought that I would find a pattern. And, you know, I think when I talk to people, they have a knee-jerk reaction where like, oh, these are nerds that live in their parents' basement or something like that. But I think the surprising thing I found was that I found a wide range of people, you know, conservative, liberal, religious, not religious, young, old, men and women, you know, a lot of different economic backgrounds. But the one thing that kind of pulls them together is this idea that they can dress like superheroes and help people out. And I actually find it to be kind of refreshing because a lot of times people are very divided because of their beliefs, but here's a group of people that kind of put those beliefs aside and try to work together.
Do most of them wear costumes?
Oh, yeah. And they range from, you know, kind of simple, really homemade looking stuff to very elaborate ones, you know, that are, looks like they stepped out of a superhero movie. And a lot of them, you know, you can see reflected in their costumes the heroes that they like. So some have a costume that looks somewhat like a Spider-Man. Some of them have kind of the cool old noir-style heroes that you know, wear a fedora and a trench coat. So, yeah, some of them are very bright and colorful. Some of them are kind of dark and gritty, depending on their preferences.
Mm-hmm. We are talking with T. Krulos tonight on Space Out Radio. He is the author of Heroes into the Night and Monster Hunter as well. We're going to save the monsters for more into the second hour here because I'm very interested in what these people are doing. Is there a group that is set up online for these people so they can join and they can kind of figure out what angles they are going to take, or is this more work on an individual basis?
A little bit more individual, or a lot of cities will have a team. You know, for example, tomorrow, actually, I'm excited. I'm going down to Chicago. There's a Chicago team there. They've planned a big meetup of the Chicago team and some of the other Midwestern real-life superheroes. And there's going to be about 30 of them, which this is going to be quite a sight, seeing 30 real-life superheroes. They're going to patrol, and they're going to be handing out some supplies that they've collected with their own money. They're going to hand out supplies to homeless people in Chicago. And, they'll have a chance to socialize and talk shop with each other. But, I'm going down there to meet the Chicago team tomorrow. So a lot of bigger cities will have a team, and these teams sometimes network with each other. There are some online forums where they exchange ideas and stuff like that.
So when you have these teams, like the one in Chicago you're going to meet with tomorrow, T, what exactly are they trying to accomplish? Because Chicago right now, after what happened tonight with the Donald Trump talk, there's violence. Chicago has a very high crime-rated area, a lot of murders. Hell, there's more murders in Chicago than all of Canada in 1 year. I mean, this is a dangerous place. What do they try and accomplish?
Well, I mean, in this case, they're just doing more of a humanitarian thing, handing out supplies. But I mean, they also are looking for, if there's trouble, they will try to intervene and stop if they can. They also just like to be vigilant and call a situation in if it's an escalating situation. I describe them a lot of times as being like a neighborhood watch group. It's just they're dressed as superheroes, So most of them, I mean, there are some guys who've tried to do sort of a vigilante thing, which hasn't been very successful, I don't think. But I think like the patrolling and looking out for people's safety thing is a good thing for them to do.
Would this not be similar than what the Guardian Angels are doing out of New York?
Yeah, very similar. I make that comparison too. I mean, it's kind of the same idea, except instead of wearing the red berets and the matching T-shirts, they wear superhero costumes.
We are talking with T. Krulos tonight on Space Out Radio. His latest books, Heroes Into the Night and Monster Hunters. What we see with the Guardian Angels in New York is almost like a positive street gang. Could these groups that are being jumping up everywhere in major cities, could they be considered a street gang? Is this some group that the police is knowing about or warning about, that they may not want to be getting into this?
Well, police response has been a little bit mixed, I would say. Some of them think it's admirable and, will stop and talk to them and have encouraging words. Other police have said pretty much, leave the crime fighting to us. We don't want you to get yourself hurt. We don't want you to get into a situation you can't handle and possibly someone else gets hurt. So the reception has been a little bit cautious, I would say. I don't think so far, they made the claims that they're a street gang, but definitely on their radar and a little bit concerned is what I've gotten from talking to a few different police forces.
Do they warn these groups to basically stay out of harm's way in regards to, say, going down into the ghettos at night to make sure that, people aren't robbed and vehicles aren't stolen and women aren't raped? Again, they say, we appreciate that idea that you want to help out, but, a lot of these guys don't
some do have some training, but some don't. So it's not something that they want to endorse.
Would you consider these groups or the people doing this some sort of vigilante?
I would say that most of them are not. I have encountered a few cases where it's definitely borderline, and some of them maybe have the thought that that's what they want to do. So yeah, there are some borderline vigilantes out there, but I think overall this sort of community or subculture kind of frowns on that behavior because they don't want to have that reputation.
Right. What about carrying arms? Gail in Paranormal Into the Night is asking, what do you do or what do they do about protecting themselves? Do they carry weapons?
Some do, yeah, definitely. There was rumors of a guy carrying firearms, but in almost all the cases, it's legal weapons that you can carry. Depending state to state, it varies quite a bit. But some of them carry things like tasers, pepper spray. Some of them have carried like collapsible batons, stuff like that. Non-lethal weapons.
So no guns, no concealed where concealed permits are allowed or anything like that?
Yeah, reports of guys carrying stuff like that is very rare. And, one thing that's very difficult is some of these guys like to talk on the Internet. How much of it is true, from a journalistic perspective, I tend not to believe everything that people say on the Internet. But the ones I've met, I've seen them with non-lethal weapons. A lot of them wear protective, like body armor, to protect themselves.
Mm-hmm. So, what are they trying to accomplish in the long run here? Is it about feeding the homeless, or giving them shoes, or helping out veterans who are on the streets, or is it about crime fighting?
Well, it's both. And in fact, there's kind of a middle core, and then there's like wing, a left wing and a right wing, and so you find some guys who are very much about patrolling, looking for crime intervention, and that's what they're all about. And then you have another group that's more of like a charity, humanitarian angle. They're like, you know what, we really don't want to get into crime fighting because we're not prepared for it. But I really like this idea of dressing up and maybe inspiring people, helping out people in a way that I feel comfortable with. And then in the middle, I think most of them do a little bit of both. They try to do like a neighborhood patrol, and then they also try to participate in charity events, stuff that they can draw attention to with their flashy personas.
Mm-hmm. Gail in Paranormal Into the Night is asking, what do they do when they encounter a person actually committing a crime?
I do know there is some cases of them placing the person under citizen's arrest and calling the police. I think a lot of them would, either try to capture the person and put them under citizen's arrest, or they would try to at least diffuse a situation or stop the situation from progressing, so they can help out the person that might be assaulted or something like that. So they will step in if they have to.
Have any of these so-called superheroes or real-life superheroes ever put their own lives in danger while doing this? Do they feel that is part of their job, wearing the costume and the badge that they wear on their chest or on their cape?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I would say a lot of them are putting themselves out there and possibly making them a target frequently. And some of these guys have gotten into altercations where, fortunately no one has been seriously injured or killed doing this yet. But some of these guys are in harm's way for sure.
We are talking with T. Krulos tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We are right up against our first break of the night. As when we come back, we're going to learn more about Heroes into the Night. T's website is tcrulos.com. If you want to check it out, our website is spacedoutradio.com. We'll be right back after this break.
This is Patrick Webster Small, and I'm going to bring you the Webster Phenomena right here on Spaced Out Radio, Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific Time. Every week, I'm going to bring you the freshest information on the globe. I'm bringing you guys the truth, extraterrestrials in the sky, prophecy, chemtrails, rainbow spot, the seventh angel, biblical skies, ancient gods, ghosts, spirits, see it, hear it. So let's do this every Monday night. I'll see you back here at 8 p.m. Pacific Time.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio is live 7 days a week? This is Jim Tyson, host of Spaced Out Weekend. You can listen to my show, Spaced Out Weekend, every Saturday and Sunday night starting at 1 a.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Pacific. On Spaced Out Weekend, we like to delve into the paranormal, even the newest technologies that have enhanced modern-day ghost hunting. And sometimes, we'll get a little creative and dabble into the crypto world, UFOs, and much, much more. So tune in at www.spacedoutradio.com on the weekends and listen to me, Jim Tyson, on Spaced Out Weekend.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Riverwest Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, rivuletrndr.wix.com/rivuletrndr, or my Facebook page, Rivulet R&R, to set up an appointment for relaxation, Reiki, or readings, no matter where you are. Spaced Out Radio listeners will also receive 10% off their first visit. It's time for you to make time for you.
The Spaced Out Radio Network can be found at spacedoutradio.com. Hi there, this is Dave Scott. Here you can join the latest on our weekly shows and news from around the world involving UFOs, cover-ups, cryptids, ghosts, and more. Read articles from our very talented staff and check out our weekly tarot card reading from Psychic Catherine. You can also sign up for free on our forum and tell us about your experiences. spacedoutradio.com. Always live, always interactive.
Ready to find out what's flying up in the sky? Me too. Hi there, this is Rich Giordano. Please join me every Sunday night at 7 for the AZ UFO Show. It's a fast and compelling 2-hour show on UFOs, extraterrestrials, conspiracy theories, and much more. Every week we will have great guests and great topics to try and answer the ultimate question, are we alone in this universe or not? So tune in to the AZ UFO Show with me, Rich Giordano, right here on the Spaced Out Radio Network at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to connect with Dave and his guests? Learn more at spacedoutradio.com for the latest news, features, photos, and articles. Spacedoutradio.com is where you can stay up to date on what's happening around the world and up in the stars. And now, back to Dave Scott.
Welcome back to Space Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning in. Uncle Jimbo James Tyson is in the hot seat with Space Out Weekend the next couple of nights while I wander off into the wilderness to try and find my Zen, maybe pick up a Wi-Fi signal from one of the Bigfoot cabins around here, and we'll see where it goes. But I'll be back in the hot seat Monday night with Edie Cato. We're going to be talking Bigfoot on Monday night. Hey, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. You can give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can also ask to join our private Spaced Out Radio group, as well as Podcast Central. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. And you can check out our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, where we put our archives. Our new look website is spacedoutradio.com. Tonight we are talking with author T. Krulos, his website, tkrulos.com. He is the author of Heroes in the Night and Monster Hunter. And right now we are talking about real-life superheroes, people who actually go out in cities in superhero costumes that they've made to try and help clean up the streets, whether it's feeding the homeless, whether it's trying to fight petty crime. Very interesting topic indeed, T. Thank you so much for bringing this to Spaced Out Radio tonight.
Oh, yeah. I love talking about real-life superheroes.
Now, have you ever been out on a trip with some of these superheroes to see what they do?
Oh, yeah. So, I mentioned when I talked about getting into the story, I met this guy named the Watchman here in Milwaukee. And I started going out on patrol with him on a pretty regular basis over the course of a couple of years. And one of the interesting things was when I started the project, he was the only real-life superhero here in Milwaukee. But as word about him started to get out, more people wanted to join him. And soon he started a team here called the Challengers, which grew to be about 5 or 6 people. So I would join them on patrols and hang out with them, and participate. They did a couple of charity toy drives here in Milwaukee, and I helped them out a little bit with that. And I also started to do some travel, and I ended up going to several different states, on the East Coast and the West Coast, and just met up with different teams and joined them on patrol.
What exactly did you guys do when you were on patrol? Were you in the rough, tough areas? Were you just walking down the main club streets at night, trying to make sure that all the drunken people got cab rides home? I'm trying to paint a picture here.
Yeah, a little bit of both. Some nights, it was downtown areas where they were just kind of walking around bar districts and stuff. And sometimes it was a little bit grittier of a neighborhood. And, a lot of walking. I did a lot of walking.
Did you accomplish anything? Fight any crimes? Yeah. Throw any people in jail?
Well, nothing major, but a little bit. Help drunk people get into the cab. Help people, escorted people safely to their cars, stuff like that. The most action that I saw happen when I went to Seattle. There's a real-life superhero there named Phoenix Jones, a very action-packed guy, and I witnessed him break up several fights outside of bars. So, he really got in the middle of these fights and broke them up physically.
Was he trained in this sort of stuff?
Well, he actually is a mixed martial art fighter, so he's in pretty top shape and, has some moves, for sure.
I have a question from the Space Out Radio chat room. What's the difference between a costume and a uniform for these guys?
Oh, well, there's a lot of debate, within the real-life superhero community. A lot of terminology is debated. So some of these guys don't like the term costume because it kind of implies like Halloween party or something like that. Some of them refer to what they wear as a uniform. That never made much sense to me because their outfits are not uniform. They're different, so they're not exactly the same. But some people call what they wear gear. They just refer to it as gear. So there's a lot of debate about proper terminology. But I usually refer to it as a costume because, I think it fits the description.
Dino in Paranormal Into the Night is asking, how do you conduct your research for all of this? Have you talked to any of these real-life superheroes firsthand? I know you've been on a few patrols with the ones locally, but there are many around North America here. And were they easy to talk to, or did some people just not want the limelight?
Yeah. Okay. Well, to start, I'll say that, yes, I traveled and met real-life superheroes in several cities. I went to New York. I went to New Bedford, Massachusetts, Seattle, San Francisco, Portland, Vancouver. A lot of it was I wanted the experience of meeting them in person, of going on patrol with them, and when possible, going to their homes and seeing what their normal life was like. So it was a lot of in-person interviewing. I also did a lot of interviews by phone and email and tried to research it as best as I could. As far as being open to talking with me, some people did not want to talk to me at all. They did not want to talk to any sort of media. And actually there was a few that gave me that response at first, but as they saw that I was taking the project seriously, some of those people came around and eventually did talk to me. Some of these guys, I will say, love the attention and seek out media. It's a little bit of a difference in personality between some of these guys. So, some of the guys are very secretive and very suspicious of the media, and I can understand that because there have been media pieces on these guys that just want to portray them as being delusional goofballs or something like that. But I think the good thing that happened to me was I met the Watchman, and we had a serious discussion, and he really vouched for me to a lot of people. He said, I met this guy, I talked to him, he explained to me that he's genuinely interested and wants to find out what this is all about. So that was huge. That really helped me out a lot.
Do any of them have their own little Batmobile that they travel in, or because you do mention that a lot of these superheroes, they come from working fast food joints all the way up to executives in high-rise towers. So you have a real big spread in the financial gap between whoever is doing this. When they have the uniforms on, do you find that gap is closed, or do you find that it is still relevant?
I find that it closes because they see each other as peers when those costumes are on. So they don't really care about some of those details. They care about having a good team up and trying to accomplish something together. So as far as vehicles, there's one real-life superhero I know of in Florida who has a pretty flashy Corvette that kind of is the same color as his uniform, but most of them drive pretty normal-looking cars.
like, I don't mean to make fun of it, but I really couldn't take it very seriously if I see someone in a superhero costume driving up in an '84 Chevy Chevette.
Yeah, yeah. That's true. That's true. I think that's why most of them prefer to be out on foot rather than in a car.
We talked a little bit in the first half hour regarding how police react, and some of them appreciate the help. Others wish that they would just kind of leave the grunt work to what police officers are supposed to do. Was the reaction from the police, and this comes from Nisa and Paranormal Into the Night, was the reaction from the police different in city to city that you investigated this? We ran into the police a few times. I'll tell you, the first time was here in Milwaukee. I was out on patrol with the Watchman and another real-life superhero from Milwaukee here named Blackbird. And we were patrolling an area that's a little in between. It wasn't a terrible neighborhood, but it was kind of dark, residential, industrial area. We were walking, and I saw this police cruiser kind of cruise by us slowly, and then it went around the block, and then it cruised by us slowly again, and then finally it pulled up right in front of us, and the police officer said, "Where's the costume party?" And the watchman said, "Well, actually, we're out here doing a patrol." And they got kind of nervous or upset about that and got out of the squad car very quickly. And were being kind of blunt and said, you guys got to take off these masks and show us your IDs. So they did that. And then the watchman started explaining more to them about what they were all about. And they kind of relaxed a little bit. They ran their IDs and were like, okay, there's nothing alarming here. And they heard them out, and they said, okay, well, if that's what you're doing, good luck to you. So, I guess that was not a good or a bad reaction. And most of the interactions I saw were pretty good. When I was with Phoenix Jones, who I mentioned in Seattle, police response to him wasn't very friendly. They, I guess, just don't really appreciate him interjecting himself into situations because they were kind of upset by him. So I don't think it varies so much city to city as it probably varies officer to officer, Well, in certain areas, you would have to see an officer's point of view. They don't want somebody trying to escalate a situation because the police are there to diffuse it. And this goes to a question from Nick Knack from Spaced Out Radio's chat room. Who polices the superhero then? Who oversees them?
Yeah, well, that's the double-edged sword, I would say, about this community is on one hand, it's kind of liberating that there's this group that anyone can join. You don't need to do anything except want to do it. But the bad flip side to that is there is no oversight committee or anything like that. So you never know who's actually showing up to the party, if you know what I mean. It could be some of the best people, but it could be a psychotic person or a person with a chip on their shoulder that wants to get in a fight. So that is a troubling thing and, something that's been much discussed within this real-life superhero community is, what kind of standards can we set? And even if we do, who would enforce it,
And that has to be troublesome because in the end, as more popularity comes to them, there's going to be copycats joining these vigilante groups. And if you can, and you do they have a screening process that they have to go through in order to join these groups, or is it pretty much all for one and one for all?
Right. Yeah. There's no screening process, and that's a dangerous thing, because all it takes is one bad apple who's going to do something stupid, like, I don't know, blow up a gas station or something, and they're all going to be judged by that,
Mm-hmm. We are talking with T. Krulos tonight on Spaced Out Radio. He's the author of Heroes Into the Night and Monster Hunter. We're going to get more into the paranormal side in hour number 2. Right now we are talking real-life superheroes. Do any of these superheroes that you have chatted with have a nemesis, like we saw with Batman and the Joker, or the Riddler, or Superman, and you know how that goes?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. There is what I like to call a subculture or an anti-movement that call themselves real-life supervillains. But these are not people that actually go out and commit crimes or capture their girlfriends or something like that. They're just internet trolls. And they basically make fun of real-life superheroes, make fun of their costumes, make YouTube videos where they make fun of them and insult them and stuff like that. So, I mean, again, the potential, there's plenty of psychotic people out there, maybe someday it'll be a problem. But so far, these so-called real-life super villains that I've seen have all been jokers on the internet.
Gail in Paranormal Into the Night is asking, T, do most of them try to hide their true identities, if not all of them?
Oh, well, some of them are very, very secretive about their secret identity. There's a lot of people that I talked to who agreed to talk to me as long as that was not a requirement that I would give their secret identity or something like that. The reason for that, I think, is 2 reasons. Number one, if they're trying to interfere with criminal activity, it's not good to have your personal information out there for a criminal to find and possibly retaliate or whatever. And the other reason, which I think is equally a factor, is a lot of these people understand that this is an unusual thing that they do, so they don't want their coworkers, they don't want to worry their mother, they don't want to have this secret out there so their coworkers can make fun of them, and so some of them are very secretive and don't tell their family or their friends that they do it. There are others who are very open about it, and they don't care what other people think, and they're very open about what their secret identity is. So I think it's a little bit of personal preference, and also, just what level they're worried about other people judging them.
I can understand that, because in the end, especially if you have a wife, maybe children, a home, you don't want that attacked. You don't want to bring that upon yourself. Now, Dino is asking in Paranormal Into the Night, why do we not hear about these people in the news more? I know, as someone who's worked in Vancouver in a newsroom, I had never heard of the gentleman who dresses up in Vancouver.
Yeah. Well, they do get news. It's kind of it cycles through the news once in a while. Some reporter will hear that this is a thing, and they'll find their local real-life superhero and do a write-up or do a short news piece on. So they are in the news. It's just, because people aren't seeing all media all the time, a lot of those stories get missed by a large part of the population. But I mean, it's a hard story because a lot of times they're hard to track down. They're elusive, and there's a high turnover rate. So people will say, "Hey, do you know about any like I get contacted frequently by other media asking me if I can point them in the right direction. So I'll get an inquiry like, do you know a real-life superhero from Cleveland, Ohio? And I'll say, well, I do, but the thing is, he kind of disappeared 4 years ago, and I don't know what ever happened to him. So it's a hard story to pin down sometimes, but people do it, and it does get reported on a regular basis, I would say.
Dino would like to know as well, what kind of weapons do some of these superheroes carry with them for protection?
Well, like I said earlier, mostly non-lethal weapons, tasers, pepper spray, batons. I'm trying to think what else I've seen guys carry. Like a staff, like a fighting staff. Some of them carry handcuffs with them, body armor, stuff like that.
We are talking with T. Krulos. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, one guy I had like these, they were kind of combination brass knuckle taser thing. It was like a glove with brass knuckles, and the knuckles also were a taser. It was pretty wild.
Do they try and disappear like superheroes do once the police start to arrive?
Well, I don't think that they do because, it's great. You see like a movie or a comic book and Batman kind of just like zips up to the rooftop or something, but these guys don't have that technology. So I think that they don't try to disappear. I think that they try to not be on the wrong side of the law, so when the police do show up, they can be a witness and tell them about what went down.
Mm-hmm. Kathy is asking in Space Out Radio's chat room, all the weapons that they carry, are they legal?
Yeah, and actually I do know of one case, there was a real-life superhero named Viper, and he was in some city in Tennessee. I forget the name. It was kind of a small city in Tennessee, and he got in trouble because he had a pair of nunchucks and some ninja throwing stars with him, which were illegal, and he got a citation for that. So, but I think, most real-life superheroes don't want to get in trouble, so they, check their local laws and make sure what they're carrying is legal. But yeah, there was that case that I know of where one of the guys got in trouble.
I do need to know, if he got taken to court, did he wear his mask?
No, I don't think so. No. Yeah.
That would have been a great story. Would have been a very good story. Joe is asking in Paranormal Into the Night, do many of these superheroes film their heroics?
Some do. Yeah, some of them make videos and post them to YouTube. Phoenix Jones, again, the guy I mentioned in Seattle, he, for a while at least, I don't know if he still does it, he had like a GoPro camera mounted onto his chest piece so he could live stream his patrols and have a video record of it, which, he thought was particularly smart to do in case he was involved in an altercation or something. Then he could have video that he could show the police.
Because I'm close to Vancouver, I would love to know about the superhero in British Columbia's major city.
Yeah, okay. So, I met a lot of people, and some of them I would say are success stories. Some I would say, I don't know, it's a little muddy if they're a success or if they're doing anything, accomplishing anything. But, one person I met that I felt very positive about was I went to Vancouver and met a man who calls himself Thanatos. He wears a trench coat and a fedora and a green skull mask. And I've been hearing a lot about him. as I was talking to other real-life superheroes and what a cool guy he was. And Thanatos, he's in his 60s, I'd say mid-60s now, and he was inspired to do this because he's a huge comic book fan. And but before he heard about real-life superheroes, he was doing a lot of handout of supplies to homeless people. You know, he felt very passionate about trying to help homeless people in Vancouver. And I think especially it pained him to see fellow war vets who are now homeless on the street. So one day he's doing this, and a police officer sees him doing this, and he said, "You're wasting your time. These people have nothing to look forward to except for death." After he finds out about the real-life superhero movement, those words kind of came back to him, and he thought he would build this costume that was kind of a parody of death. And so I went up there to meet him, and, you know, I was a little unsure what to expect because he's telling me he does these early morning deliveries of stuff to homeless people. And I was like, I don't know if it's a good idea to wake a homeless person up wearing a costume with a green skull mask on, you know, because who knows what sort of mental state they're in. But when I got there, I was very surprised because quickly it became evident that all of these homeless people in Vancouver knew who Thanatos was already. And a lot of them were very happy to see him. They knew his name. They gave him hugs, you know. They told him what was going on the street. And I was like, wow, this guy is like an urban legend of Vancouver, you know. And this homeless population all know who he is. So, I mean, does he need a costume to do something like that? You know, no, he doesn't. But I guess it's what works for him. And I thought it was a very nice thing that he does up there, you know, just kind of looking out for people who are down on their luck.
Well, I think it's a shame that any country, whether it's Canada or the U.S., would allow veterans to be sitting and sleeping on the streets after someone put their life on the line for the flag and the country and the people in it. That's a whole different topic for a whole different night, and I know I would probably get pretty pissed off at that one, you know, as I have a lot of friends who are veterans, but good on them for doing that. T, I'm going to get you to hold on. We are going to take our break at the top of the hour here. We are talking with T. Krulos tonight. His books, Heroes in the Night, about real-life superheroes, and what we're going to talk about next, the paranormal, Bigfoot, Dogman, and UFOs in the Wisconsin area. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be right back after this break.
The Phoenix Lights, Roswell, secret military aircraft, flying saucers. Let's check out the sky together. Hi, this is Rich Giordano, host of the AZ UFO Show right here on the Spaced Out Radio Network. Every Sunday night at 7, we hit the airwaves to talk about the phenomenon of unidentified flying objects and more. We want to hear your stories. Maybe you've seen what many others have seen. Only one way to find out, the AZ UFO Show on Sunday nights on the Spaced Out Radio Network on spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is James Tyson, host of Spaced Out Weekends, and I know you're enjoying tonight's show with Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio. I just wanted to remind you that Spaced Out Radio continues on the weekends with me. On Spaced Out Weekend, we hit the airwaves at www.spacedoutradio.com starting at 10 p.m. Pacific, 1 a.m. Eastern. We have great guests with interesting chats regarding all things paranormal, supernatural, cryptozoological, and much, much more. So tune in to Spaced Out Weekend and give us a listen.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at thepurpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Need a break but don't have the time? Tired of life's running around? Hi, this is Jolene from Riverwest Relaxation and Readings. Let me help you in your time of need. From Reiki to realm readings, I can help provide you therapy for your mind, body, and soul. Check out my website at rivuletrnr.wix.com/rivuletrnr. And if you're a listener of Spaced Out Radio, receive 10% off your first session. Rivulet Relaxation and Readings. And don't forget to give my Facebook page a like. It's time for you to make some important time for you.
The Spaced Out Radio Network can be found at spacedoutradio.com. Hi there, this is Dave Scott. Here you can join the latest on our weekly shows and news from around the world involving UFOs, cover-ups, cryptids, ghosts, and more. Read articles from our very talented staff and check out our weekly tarot card reading from Psychic Catherine. You can also sign up for free on our forum and tell us about your experiences. SpacedOutRadio.com. Always live, always interactive.
The Webster Phenomena airs on Spaced Out Radio on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific Time. I'm your host, Patrick Webster Small, and I discovered extraterrestrials in the atmosphere, which led me to more discoveries, developing the Webster Phenomena, which is the occurrence of extraterrestrials throughout nature. I will explain the Webster Phenomena and all my recent discoveries every Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific Time, right here on Spaced Out Radio.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Want to call in to Spaced Out Radio? You can. 1-607-203-5344. You can tweet us at Spaced Out Radio or send us a message on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio. And now, back to the show. Here's Dave Scott.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you for being with us. Tomorrow night and Saturday, Uncle Jimbo James Tyson enters the cabin as I head off into the wilderness for a couple of days to find myself, find my zen. I'll try and make it by to listen in if I can find a good Wi-Fi signal at one of the caves that Bigfoot lives in this area. Hey, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. You can give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show, along with joining our Spaced Out Radio group and Podcast Central. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel is Spaced Out Radio Show, and our new look website is spacedoutradio.com. We bring in T. Krulos tonight. He is the author of Heroes in the Night. We were just talking about real-life superheroes in the first hour. We're going to switch gears here a little bit because T. has also written a book called Monster Hunter. Now, T., I need to know, before you wrote Monster Hunter, did you have an interest in the paranormal or the Wisconsin Dogman, for instance?
Oh, yeah, all that stuff, all of it. So I mentioned, in the first hour that when I was young, I loved to read comic books. I also loved to read any book I could find at the library that was about ghost stories, Bigfoot, UFOs. Time Life had the series Mysteries of the Unknown. I checked that entire series out. I also loved your classic shows like Unsolved Mysteries and In Search of. I've always loved that topic.
Have you ever had any paranormal experiences yourself before you wrote the book?
Before I wrote the book, not really. There was a couple things that I experienced secondhand. Like when I was a teenager, we did something that, you probably shouldn't do, which is we broke into an old abandoned house. And my friend suddenly became very frightened and ran out of the house. And we followed him, and he swore that he saw apparition of what looked to be an elderly man. And he was very, very frightened. It was non-act. It would not be in character for him to do something like that. So I believed him. I didn't see it myself, but that was the one thing I can think of experiencing.
What made you decide to write Monster Hunter?
I really had a good time writing Heroes of the Night because I thought it was just fascinating to, get out into the field with a group of people and experience what their life was like. So my publisher, asked me what I wanted to do for my second book, and that idea sprang to mind pretty quickly, was doing something similar, but instead of patrolling the streets, I would try to get out and join in on investigations. When I was kind of visualizing the book, I had some ideas of the types of people I wanted to meet before I met them. And two major ideas that I had was I wanted to find someone who would be like the grandmaster of cryptozoology, because I've always loved that subject a lot. And that person ended up being Lauren Coleman, who runs the International Cryptozoology Museum. He's written many, many, many books on the topic. And so I got to travel out and meet him and interview him, and then he kind of appears throughout the rest of the book as sort of a guru on the other cases that I look into. And my other idea was I wanted to find a local group here in the Milwaukee area that was a paranormal investigation group that I could join over and over again on different investigations and get to know the team, personally. So I found a great local group, very well organized, very active. They're called the Paranormal Investigators of Milwaukee. And I ended up joining them on about a dozen ghost investigations.
Let's stick with the paranormal here for a little bit. Is Milwaukee a very haunted city?
Yes, I would say so. Milwaukee has a lot of very old buildings in it. It was built by Germans. It's got a lot of old architecture that was built by the Germans. So there's a lot of places with a very rich history, and quite a few haunted places. In fact, a friend that I met while working on this book does a local ghost tour. Her name's Allison Jornland, and she's currently working on a book that I'm excited to see that's going to be titled something like 101 Haunted Locations You Can Visit in Milwaukee. So they're alone,
So when you went out on these investigations, these dozen of them, with the paranormal group in Milwaukee, what were you hoping to accomplish with that?
I was hoping to get scared. I was hoping to see why this group was so passionate about getting out there and trying to find evidence. PIM, Paranormal Investigators in Milwaukee, is called PIM for short. They're very much a gear-oriented group. They have a lot of audio, visual recording devices, EMF detectors, all that sort of thing. So, part of the curiosity was I didn't really understand how a lot of that equipment worked. So I wanted to see what their method was, and finding that the things that they were finding that made them so excited about this.
Mm-hmm. Was there a memorable apparition or situation that happened that you believed all of a sudden, yes, this is real?
Well, Yeah, I'll start by saying that they have some interesting evidence that I saw before I joined them on any investigations. Most of those are really good EVPs that they've gotten. But I will tell you, the creepiest, a lot of, and some of the investigations I went on were very long and nothing happened, except for us sitting in the dark. But I'll tell you a very frightening investigation that I went on with Pim happened not in Milwaukee, but they went on a road trip visiting some various famous haunted locations, like the Mansfield Reformatory. While they were on this trip, I happened to also be traveling, and I met up with them in Kentucky to investigate a place called Bobby Mackey's Music World, which was a frightening place, and some weird stuff happened to this group on more than one investigation at this place. And again, I didn't quite experience this firsthand, but while I was on this investigation, one of the members says that she temporarily went blind and lost feeling in her hands, and was very frightened. And I was sitting next to her, and it was a very weird experience for sure.
I know the feeling because a couple of months ago we did a live broadcast from a group here in Canada called Chronicles of the Unknown, and they were at a museum in northern British Columbia where there is a haunted doll named Mandy. And Glenn, who is kind of the leader of the group, he's an ex-sniper in the British Army. This guy has done tours of duty in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's a very, very solid man. Nothing rattles him. And when they went back on the second night to go and visit Mandy the haunted doll, Glenn was sitting beside the doll, which is encased in a glass case. And the other crew members, when they next found him, he was kneeling in front of the doll, staring right at it. And he absolutely blacked out in time, does not know, does not recall how he got there. And the weird part about it was, Glenn's the type of guy where his knees are so bad from being in the Army, he's never down kneeling on his knees. And that's the way they found him. Mandy put him right on his knees.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, so like you're saying, this group, PIM, they take a very skeptical approach. They spend a lot of time debunking things, trying to figure out explanations that aren't paranormal. But that, to me, it makes it all the more frightening and compelling when something that they can't explain happens to them, which is kind of rare, but it's happened a couple times.
Does it make you a real true believer in ghosts then?
Yeah, I mean, something, I don't know exactly what it is, if it's an actual spirit or if it's some sort of dimensional thing, but yeah, I mean, and I talk to so many people that have these experiences, and I certainly don't think that they're all making it up or something. So, yeah, I think there is something. I don't know what it is.
What is your opinion of psychics in a paranormal group?
I talked to a paranormal group that uses psychics. It's not something that I understand. But I don't have all the answers to the mysteries of the universe, so it's not something that I can quite comprehend because I don't have that ability. But I mean, I think it's possible that people have that intuition.
You were mentioning EVPs that you were getting out of Bobby Mackey's Music World.
Mm-hmm.
what were they saying? Were they very evil spirits telling you to get out? Was there any real horrifying or stressful type sounds or words that came across on the tape?
Well, they've gotten good EVPs, but they didn't get any EVPs from Bobby Mackey, I don't think. But I will tell you what they did get was on a previous investigation. I wasn't along for this one, but the same woman in the group that experienced a temporary blindness actually got pushed into a wall, lifted up and pushed into the wall, and multiple people witnessed this. They did not get the evidence captured because, and this is so frustrating, they had they had just set the cameras, just set them up, and someone was standing in between the camera and the action, so you can see a little bit of movement, but not a lot. But again, this is a very skeptical group, and multiple people saw this happen. But she was picked up and pushed into a wall.
That is scary when things like that happen.
Yeah.
Because you don't expect to get attacked, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, this led you down a real intriguing road to the paranormal. You're now an investigator. You go on paranormal walks around Milwaukee. How fun is that?
Oh, yeah, it's cool. I actually, what I did is I organized a Milwaukee Paranormal Conference. So we did our first year last year and brought in some local speakers and had some panels, and it went great. It was a success. We're doing a year 2 event in October 14th through the 16th. It's going to be at the University of Wisconsin Milwaukee campus, and we're going to have a 2-day event with speakers on all these topics: ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, folklore, and we're and we do a lot of focusing, especially on Wisconsin legends. So last year, we had a very interesting talk about famous case studies of UFO sightings in Wisconsin. This year, we're going to have a panel discussion about Bigfoot sightings in Wisconsin. So it's a very fun event, and there's a lot of enthusiasm for it because there has not been such an event in Milwaukee. The last time there was a paranormal conference in Milwaukee was about 10 years ago. So a lot of people have been kind of waiting for such a thing to happen.
Wisconsin is very well known not only for its beer, but Linda Godfrey's investigation of the Dogman. And now we are seeing Dogman sightings right across North America.
Yeah. She's a great person to talk to. She broke the Beast of Bray Road is what it was known when it was first reported on. But she's definitely the worldwide expert on that topic. I got the chance to meet her a couple times, and I wrote about her in my book. And she's also been a guest. She was a guest last year and will be returning as a guest this year to the Milwaukee Paranormal Conference, giving a very interesting talk about her research.
Are you a big believer in the Dogman?
Well, that's another thing where so many people have seen it. What could it be? I don't know what it is, but I think that people have seen something. Especially Wisconsin folk are pretty good at being able to tell the difference between a bear and something else. And I love the story of how she unraveled that. She talked to a few witnesses, and then she went to a local animal control center and mentioned it, and the guy there said, "Sure, hold on a minute," and went and got a manila folder that was labeled werewolf file, which was filled with reports of seeing this thing. So it's a thing like the Mothman, you know. I think that those people all saw something. You know, what it is, I have no idea. But I love to hear reports of it.
For sure. We are talking with Tia Krulos on Space Out Radio tonight. His website, tkrulos.com. His 2 books, Heroes in the Night, about real-life superheroes, and Monster Hunter. We're talking about animals, cryptids, living in the Wisconsin area tonight. What do you prefer more, dealing with the cryptids like Dogman or dealing with the paranormal?
Oh, I like them both. I wrote a little bit about UFOs in the book, too. I actually, while I was working on the book, I had a UFO sighting.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was a game changer for me. That was an experience I've never had. So I like all of those topics, and, you know, so that's Milwaukee Paranormal Conference. We talk about all those subjects at it, too. Ghosts, UFOs, cryptozoology, because I love all of those topics.
Me too. It's kind of why I do this show.
Yeah. Yeah, I find them all equally fascinating, I would say.
Linda is so knowledgeable in the Dogman realm. She's literally the leader and the queen of the field due to the research of breaking this story and the investigation that has turned into a lifelong investigation for her. Are you still seeing or hearing of a lot of reports of Dogman in the Wisconsin area?
Yeah, you know, when I spoke to her, she had recent reports. You know, a lot of people think the Beasts of Bray Road was kind of something that just happened in like a wave in the 90s. But she still gets reports of sightings on a regular basis. I won't say a frequent basis, but a regular basis for sure. So there has been sightings, you know, within the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe then that people are seeing truly what they are seeing, or do you think a lot of these investigations are from people who just want to get in the news?
Well, I mean, I think that is a percentage of people who want to get in the news, or maybe they see something and their imagination runs away. But I don't think that explains all the cases. You know, no.
For your book, did you get an opportunity to talk to eyewitnesses of Dogman? And if so, what were they seeing?
I did not speak directly to any Dogman witnesses. I spoke directly to Bigfoot witnesses and also a witness that saw Champ, which is a lake monster in Lake Champlain. I went out to Vermont to join some cryptozoologists who had like a weekend where they got out on the lake and installed an underwater camera and some cameras on the lake shore. And we talked to a witness who saw it.
What was their reaction when you had a chance to speak with them?
They said, "You're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm going to tell you what I saw," you know. And this woman had been living on, she was, you know, she's now elderly. She had the sighting probably about 10 years ago, but she's been living on the lake her whole life. So, you know, she says, "I know what I saw, and it wasn't anything other than what I'm describing." So
have you?
It's always great to talk to eyewitnesses, I think, because it gives you a different perspective.
Because you have an interest in these topics, Gail from Paranormal Into the Night would like to know, have you personally ever seen anything paranormal?
Well, yeah, I mentioned, you know, the UFO sighting was one of the craziest nights of my life. What happened there was I had started communicating with a guy in Michigan named Jim Sherman, He's a Michigan field representative for the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, which, that's a group that is familiar because they're represented on Finding Bigfoot. In fact, Jim was there behind the scenes on some of the episodes that they shot in Michigan. So I was out there because he said, I've got this location that I've been to a few times, a lot of weird stuff happening there. You should meet me out there, and we'll do some Bigfooting. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. I can't wait to get out there. So there was some strange Bigfoot-related things that happened. Not a sighting, but there's some, we did the wood knocking thing, and we got some knocks back from somewhere in the woods, and heard some weird sounds. But anyway, the weird thing that happened to me while Bigfooting was not so much the Bigfoot as the UFO. What happened that night was I got into my tent, we're out in the middle of the woods, and I hear this screech, this blood-curdling screech that just terrifies me, and I was completely frozen. And so then after a few minutes, I unzipped my tent and got out, looked around for a Bigfoot. There's nothing there. I ran over to Jim. Jim was in his Jeep. I got into his Jeep. Now, he recorded this and later had a wildlife expert listen to it, and he said, you guys got scared by an aggressive coyote, is what that screech was. So that's not really the story, though, because I'm in his Jeep looking at the field thinking I'm going to see this 8-foot Bigfoot walking around. But then something catches my eye up in the skyline. And it's this ball of light that's like bouncing back and forth and hovering and then kind of zipping up and hovering and then moving around, like zipping and hovering. And I was like, Jim, do you see this? So we got out of his Jeep and looked at it through binoculars, and once we got in the binoculars, we could see it was like a ball of lights that had green and red lights swirling around it, kind of. It was like nothing I had seen, and we tried to think of explanations of what it could be. And we watched it for a while, and I got into the Jeep and kept watching it. But by now it was very late at night, early in the morning. I kind of set my head back to rest and, just kind of rested my head for a couple of minutes and looked out the window again, and it was gone. And, and also this bouncing ball of light. On occasion, there would be this illumination that would happen below it, like behind the tree line. It was like a big spotlight, like lighting up the tree line. And it was very weird. And I definitely haven't experienced anything like it. People would try to give me explanations like, it was a drone flying around, or it was airplane headlights caught in the fog or something. But no, that's not what it looked like.
You know when it's a drone or an airplane or something like that. I always love the people who try to explain the unexplainable. T, I'm going to get you to hold on for our final break of the night. We are talking with T. Krulos. His website, tkrulos.com, is 2 books, Heroes in the Night of Real-Life Superheroes and Monster Hunter. We're going to get back with more crypto experiences right after this. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be right back.
Want to find out what's coming up on the Spaced Out Radio Network? Go to spacedoutradio.com, where you can find our daily list of shows and guests appearing throughout the week. Want to tell us your story? Be sure to sign up for the Spaced Out Forum for free. Maybe you have a psychic question. Drop in and say hi to Catherine in Cat's Corner. spacedoutradio.com, your 24-hour source for UFOs, ghosts, conspiracies, and more. Check it out today.
Are you one of many who's had a UFO or ET experience? Listen up. the AZ UFO show is on every Sunday night at 7 on the Spaced Out Radio Network. We talk about UFO sightings across the globe, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, and more with me, Rich Giordano. I want you to know what's going on in the skies above you, so tune in to the AZ UFO show on Spaced Out Radio Network, on spacedoutradio.com, right before Spaced Out Weekend. Our show is literally out of this world.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Brand new discovery beats NASA. This is Patrick Webster Small bringing you the Webster Phenomena every Monday night at 8 p.m. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to talk about amazing stuff, have amazing guests. That's all there is, man. You know the rest. Says ET's up in the sky. I'm going to tell you which way and why. And we're going to have a little combo about these ETs in the sky. We're going to chill. This is Patrick Webster Small, and I'll be seeing you every Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific Time. Write it down on Spaced Out Radio.
Is the 24-hour world starting to wear you down? Let me from Riverwest Reiki and Readings lend you a hand. Hi, this is Jolene, and if you're in need of Reiki or a realm reading, come to my website, rivuletrndr.wix.com/rivuletrndr, and let us help you out. At Rivulet, I specialize in healing your body, mind, and soul, no matter where you are. And be sure to check out the Rivulet R&R Facebook page for your best deals. Remember, it's time for you to make some time for you.
Hi there, this is Jim Tyson, host of Spaced Out Weekend. When you've had a busy week and you're just wanting to chill out and relax, how about listening into my show? That's right, Spaced Out Weekend. I focus on the paranormal, the arcane. I even dip into the techie side of things and much, much more. And I would love for you to come in and check it out. Remember, Spaced Out Radio goes 7 days a week. Dave Scott, Monday through Friday, and me, Jim Tyson, rolling through the weekends. I look forward to having you stop by for a listen every Saturday and Sunday night, 1 a.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Pacific, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Missed most of tonight's show? Don't worry, you didn't miss a thing. You can head to our website where you can download the podcast at spacedoutradio.com. Now, back to tonight's show. Here's Dave Scott.
Welcome back for the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. We've rounded third. We're headed for home. Tomorrow night and Sunday, Uncle Jimbo, James Tyson, will be in the hot seat for Spaced Out Weekend. I will be wandering off in the wilderness, trying to find my zen, as I always do every weekend. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We'll see how this weekend goes. But I'll be back in the hot seat on Monday night where Edie Cato will join us talking about Bigfoot. 2 hours of Bigfoot talk Monday night. Hey, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. You can give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can also ask to join our Spaced Out Radio group and Podcast Central. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel is Spaced Out Radio Show. Of course, our new look website, easier to navigate, is spacedoutradio.com. For the final time tonight, we bring in T. Krulos. He is the author of Heroes in the Night. We talked about that book in the first half hour about real-life superheroes around North America. And now we've been talking monsters, which includes his book, Monster Hunter. T's website is tkrulos.com if you want to check it out, at tkrulos on Twitter. T, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a real pleasure to have you on the air, man.
Oh, it's been great to be here. This is a lot of fun.
Right before the break, you were telling us about a UFO story that you were actually out on a Bigfoot hunt when you saw this orb bouncing around the sky in front of you. Does Wisconsin have a lot of UFO history?
Oh, yes, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of classic sightings. There's a couple of small towns in Wisconsin. One of them's called Dundee, that make the claim that they're the UFO capital of Wisconsin. So yeah, it's pretty frequent here.
What type of sightings are people having in that area?
All different sorts. All different sorts of encounters. There's a researcher here in Wisconsin who recently, there's an army base between here and Minneapolis, and he uncovered that there was a UFO sighting at this army base in the 80s, around the same time that like Rendlesham happened. So he's trying to find out more about that case, but that's something that I'm interested in. But yeah, we frequently get sightings of all kinds.
Is there a lot of triangles in the area that are reported, or is it more just orbs of light in the sky?
I think it's more orbs and light. I haven't heard of too many triangle sightings.
How is Wisconsin then for topics such as abduction or contact? Are people seeing a lot of ETs there?
Not that I've heard of. I haven't heard of a lot. I would have to look more into it, but yeah, I'm not aware of a lot of that activity happening here.
When you were writing your book, is that something that you looked into, was the fact that people were having ET contact?
Yeah, so for my book, other than describing my own experience, the big UFO chapter that I have in my book was I went down to the International UFO Congress that year. It was 2014 is the year that I went. And that's because for a lot of the other chapters, I could go into haunted locations with a group. I could go out in the field and look for Bigfoot. But for that chapter, I thought it'd be good to do something in a convention setting and talk about some of the guest speakers that I saw. And I talked about the group that organized the convention. And that was great. It was a very learning experience for me because I've read some books and I've seen some documentaries, but I'm not exactly in the loop necessarily. So it was a very big learning experience for me. And while I was there, I did talk to some people that have had abduction experiences. Yeah.
Nisa in Paranormal Into the Night would like to know, because Wisconsin is a farming state, there's a lot of farms there. I mean, it is the cheese state. You need some milk in order to do that. Has there been a lot of reports of cattle mutilations in your state?
Not that I know of recently. I can't think of any recent cases of cattle mutilation or crop circles or anything like that. I think that they have happened in the past, but I'm not aware of anything recently, no.
That would surprise me a little bit because usually we hear of these cattle mutilations happening in very rural farming type states like Wisconsin or Texas or some types of states along those lines. Even up here in Canada in the prairies where most of the farming is done, we've seen those types of happenings around there as well. Is it something that you believe then because, or let me rephrase the question if you don't mind, is Wisconsin a militarized state much like other states around the United States?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I don't know. There is some Army bases here. Yeah, I guess it is.
Because a lot of this action, and you just go down the road to Ohio, where they seem to have an abundance of everything, it focuses mainly around Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So I guess what I'm trying to put together here and paint a picture is if there's a major military installation in that area that maybe has a lot of ufology happening.
Yeah, we don't have a major one, but we do have the base I mentioned that's in between here and Minneapolis. It's kind of in the northern part of the state. So, but yeah, it is. Wisconsin, very close proximity to Ohio, very close to Chicago, of course.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's head back into the forest. We talked about Bigfoot.
Yeah.
When you started writing Monster Hunters, what did you know about Bigfoot?
I'd seen the Patterson film footage. I'd seen shows like In Search of. So I'd seen some like documentary stuff on Discovery Channel. I had seen Finding Bigfoot before, but I was curious to actually get into the field and look for it myself.
Did you always believe Bigfoot existed?
It was something that I'll admit some skepticism towards before I got into this, because I'd always seen like a lot of the hoaxes and the jokes about it, and I think that diminished it for me a little bit. But talking to a guy, like I mentioned, Jim Sherman in Michigan, great guy, very level-headed. He's a high school history teacher, and he had some very interesting stuff, and it talked to a lot of witnesses in Michigan who had pretty compelling stories.
At what point did you believe that you really thought that there was something out there in the forest with all the experiences people were having?
I guess it really was from my communication with Jim. It was I talked to him online for quite a long period before I actually met him. So he has a SoundCloud page, and he has a lot of recordings of vocalizations that he's gotten out in the field. And some of those are very, very bizarre and not like anything I've ever heard before. So, he's got a good collection of evidence.
Were you able to get your hands to touch any of that evidence? I know when I went to a conference last year, there was a gentleman who's a legendary Bigfoot researcher here in Canada named John Bindernagel, and he actually had some of the castings with him. And I had never even seen a casting, let alone got to touch a casting. But I could not believe how impressive the size of these feet were on these Bigfoot.
Yeah. Jim has a great collection of casts that he's done himself, and casts that are kind of I want to call them reprints, like they're based on a mold of casts that other people have gotten, including some classic ones. So he's done some casts himself, which were impressive.
What is the area like in Wisconsin? Is there a lot of forests around there where Bigfoot could easily hide?
Yeah, a lot of the Bigfoot sightings come from an area that's in the center of the state called the Kettle Moraine State Forest. And it's huge area of forest, including, lots of undeveloped area. So it would be a real easy place to get lost in.
Are there a lot of sightings of Bigfoot in the area
Yeah, definitely.
There are. And is there multiple reports every year?
Yeah, yes, yeah. I'm looking forward to this year at the Milwaukee Paranormal Conference. We are going to have a panel discussion that's going to include Linda Godfrey, because she's done some investigation of that herself and has written about it in some of her recent books. And we're also going to have a couple from the Wisconsin Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. And then there's another guy named Jay who has a group called Wisconsin Hunts the Truth. And he's found some interesting evidence as far as he's found footprints in the Kell Moraine State Forest area. So, yeah, there's a lot of sightings. There are some researchers who are looking for stuff out there.
Have you ever been on a Bigfoot sighting when you were writing this book, besides when you saw the UFO?
That was the one time that I actually got out into the field, was there in Michigan. But I would love to do an expedition here in Wisconsin, and I think that is going to happen sometime over this summer for sure.
It is kind of exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's something, I did a lot of this type of stuff while I was working on the book, and I've been busy since then, but I've missed doing some of it. I would love to get back out there and investigate some haunted locations. I'd love to go on another Bigfoot expedition, and I'm pretty positive that's going to happen soon. But I love doing all of it. I wish my life wasn't so hectic sometimes, so I had more time to do stuff like that.
When you look at Bigfoot and you look at the sightings that people are having, and as a journalist, there always has to be a realm of skepticism in there. Do you believe that the creature that they are seeing is a benevolent creature that doesn't really want to be seen and doesn't want to cause harm to people, or are there sightings in the Wisconsin area that are much more aggressive?
I have not heard of any aggressive sightings here in Wisconsin. So, yeah, I think it's something that wants to be avoided. But, yeah, no, nothing ugly has happened here.
And that's a real good thing, because it seems like the only two areas where I've heard from other experts in the field regarding Bigfoot where they seem to be very aggressive is in the swamplands of Louisiana and Arkansas, and up near Ape Canyon in the Mount St. Helens area of Washington State. So I know up here in BC, the only real warning that is out there for Bigfoot is from First Nations, where they tell their women, do not go out alone after dusk because Bigfoot is always looking for a wife. At least that's how legend goes. So do you play a part in your investigation in trying to figure out whether or not this is a creature that is very subtle and just wants to be left alone, very shy, or if it is more aggressive?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard those stories. I've read about Ape Canyon and stuff. I think it's probably like any sort of entity. You need to be careful about what you're dealing with, because it's a fine line, between them, avoiding you or stepping over that line and antagonizing it. So, I don't know. Yeah.
Gail in Paranormal Into the Night would like to ask you a question. She says, T, what would you do if you actually encountered a Bigfoot? How would you react?
I would find out how fast I can run really quick. I would run, I would say. I would like to say that I would stop and compose myself and take a beautiful picture that wasn't blurry at all. But I think the reality is I would probably run really fast.
I can tell you this. When I had my Bigfoot encounter with a friend of mine a couple of years ago, I was so in awe of seeing the creature, and I just wanted to take it all in and remember absolutely everything that happened. I did not even think of pulling my iPhone out to take a picture. For some reason, it was just not on my mind to take that photo of either of them. And, you know, it's very interesting that you say that, because so many people say, and we've talked about it actually a couple of times this week on the show, that so many people say that, you know, I would take that photo, I would immediately reach for my camera, and it's tough to say, like you said, unless you're put in that situation. Do you find when you have talked to people who have been investigators that they notice the exact same thing with people kind of talking tough about never having a sighting?
Yes, definitely. And you know, I'm saying I would run, but I have no idea, because, you know, I've not been in that situation, so I might just freeze up because I'd be too scared to move. Or you know, I might totally be in awe because it's such a unique thing to see. You know, I'm not sure exactly how I would react. I would like to see it, you know, and find out.
You know what? I think as a journalist, your intuition of what you're supposed to do, what is ingrained in you, would absolutely kick in. And I honestly think that if you're lucky enough to get that sighting, like I was lucky enough and many other people have been fortunate, I think you would just take it in. I don't think you'd be scared at all, unless it's running at you. And, well, then you have no choice. You know, I'm going to run faster than Carl Lewis in the 100-meter dash when that happens.
I think I would. I think you're right. I think I would probably be so fascinated that I would be very quiet and still and just watch. It started coming towards me, then I would definitely run.
Well, there is that part too. There totally is that part. We're down to the last few minutes here with T. Krulos tonight on Spaced Out Radio. His two books, Heroes in the Night, talking about real-life superheroes, and his second book, Monster Hunter, Bigfoot, Dogman, Paranormal, UFOs. It's all in that book. You can get them on Amazon.com or any major bookstore across North America. I highly suggest you check it out. T, is there anything that you want to experience before you delve into maybe writing another book in regards to any of these topics?
Oh, well, I am working on another book right now. But backing up, you know, like I mentioned in my book, I really only wrote one chapter on UFOs. I would love to do another book somewhere down the line that is more about UFOs and researchers looking into that topic. You know, I feel like I did not even scratch the surface, and it would make another good book someday. Right now, I am working on my third book for my same publisher, and I'm really just getting started. But the theme of the book is I'm talking to a wide range of different people about their theories on how the world might end and how some people are preparing for that. So, you know, I'm talking about it from a religious, a political, a scientific perspective, a lot of different voices telling me what they think our future is and where we're headed.
Mm-hmm. When you start to investigate researchers for your next book in regards to this, do you think there are too many researchers out there right now that it's almost becoming an oversaturated topic where weekend warriors are going out every weekend, or do you try and stay towards the people who've been doing this almost a lifetime?
I like to get a little bit of a mix. I like talking to people who have been doing it for almost a lifetime and hearing their perspective on how the field has changed over the years and the things that they've learned over the years. I also do like to talk to at least a couple people who are just getting into it, because I'm interested to hear like what has sparked them to get interested in this and get involved.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're both good perspectives to.
Oh, for sure, indeed. Because there always has to be something. It's just, you have to watch out, whether it's the paranormal or whether it's Bigfoot or UFOs. You always have to watch out for the people, though, when you think, who are there for their own glory and the possibility of a television show pilot, rather than people who are out there doing real, true research.
Oh, yeah. And, I experienced that with real-life superheroes and with paranormal investigators, and probably, most groups I'm going to talk to. You have people who are into it because they're passionate, and it's their life's work, And then you have other people who are just publicity hounds who want attention. Mm-hmm. So it's important to figure out where people are coming from.
For sure. We have one final question from Paranormal Into the Night. Bill Cardwell is asking, and it's his birthday today, so we got to give him a rough time. He likes the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't know why. But he is asking, if given the chance to either communicate with or take a Bigfoot picture, what would you prefer?
To communicate or take a picture?
Yeah.
I would say communicate. Definitely, yeah. I would be bummed out that I didn't get the picture to show everyone, but I think the communication would be more fascinating if I could learn anything at all.
It's interesting. It's just interesting the way these sightings just seem to pop up and just happen, isn't it? Because you can never be prepared for it, because you don't know how to prepare for it.
Right.
My friend, we are almost out of time. I would love it if you took about 30 seconds, T, to tell us about your website and where everyone can find your books.
Yeah. So if you go to my website, tkrulos.com, you'll find some tabs with information on both of my current books. My website also has a blog where I update on stuff that I'm working on, including I freelance a lot of articles to magazines and newspapers, so I post links, and have an author appearance tab if people are in the Midwest. I do appearances occasionally. That's tkrulos.com. My books, you can find them on Amazon. You can go to my publisher's website, Chicago Review Press, and most chains will have the book or will order it for you.
Awesome. T. Krulos, thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight. A real pleasure to get to talk about you and the experiences with your books.
Oh, it's great being here. Thanks so much for having me.
Take care.
Bye.
Do you have a topic or guest you'd like to hear on Spaced Out Radio? Email us, dave@spacedoutradio.com. Send us a quick message on Twitter @SpacedOutRadio, or a message on our Facebook page, Spaced Out Radio. Once again, here's Dave Scott.
And we want to thank T. Krulos for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Real pleasure to have him talking some Bigfoot, some Dogman, some UFOs, paranormal, real-life superheroes. Real interesting show tonight. We're glad to have him on. And once again, you can find him at tkrulos.com. T is spelled T-E-A, like the drink, if you want to check out his books. Hey, I'm out of here for the weekend. Uncle Jimbo James Tyson is in the hot seat here in the cabin while I wander off into the wilderness looking for my next experience. Hopefully I have one. Maybe I don't. Doesn't really matter. I will be back on Monday night. Edie Cato will be my guest. We're talking Bigfoot. Remember, you can find us on Twitter @Spaced Out Radio, on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show, Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, Spaced Out Radio Show on YouTube, and our website, is spacedoutradio.com. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on SOR. Really do appreciate it. Stick around for the weekend. Uncle Jimbo, James Tyson with Spaced Out Weekend is here in the hot seat in the cabin the next 2 nights. Good night.